Hello everyone, and welcome to tonight's Ask a Navigator. My name's Ian, my pronouns are he and him, and I am the Trans Health Navigator at Southwest Center. Does that sound different? Because it is a different title. Turns out, we're doing so well at Southwest Center that we're going to be hiring a new Trans Navigator. If you're interested, please go to swcenter.org/careers. That's down at the bottom, swcenter.org/careers, or you can go to Get Involved and then Careers. I'm really excited. I'm hoping to find a good partner for this program to help build everything up and do all the things I couldn't do alone. So if you're out there, if you're trans, and if you want to do the work we do, I encourage you to apply. So for tonight, we have a very special guest, but before we get there, we have to talk about some things we're doing at the center. Next week, we have Healthy Relationships. That's where you learn to talk about effective communication, disclosing status, coming out to persons. That's led by Giovanni and Adam. They are empowerment specialists at the Southwest Center. Here's Giovanni's email. If you're so interested, please email Giovanni, and some participants may qualify for a gift card. So if you need a little cash for the holiday season, attend Healthy Relationships, learn some great things, and maybe get paid for it. We also, 2 weeks from now, on Monday the 21st, have our queer chat group. So anyone who identifies as queer, LGBT spectrum, questioning, what have you, you can log in. That will be same email Giovanni if you have questions. Log in, talk with other persons like yourself. I know with COVID and rising numbers, it can be a little challenging to meet with people. So if you wanted to do it in a more safe way, safer way, just attend our queer chat group. And finally, for those of you out there who are HIV positive, we have our Positive Living group, which is run by Michael Shepard. Michael Shepard was our early intervention specialist and now is a medical case manager. Congratulations to Michael for the step into a better role, or better fitting role. That will be on Wednesday the 30th. So right before New Year's Eve, you can meet and chat with persons who have the same status as you. All that being said, we still have some more programs to go, but first, let's bring on our co-host, Mars. Which way are you coming, Mars? There you are. You're muted.
It really helps if I take myself off mute.
Yep.
I was saying hi, and how are you?
Mostly good. I think like the end of the year, I'm just exhausted. But I'm happy to be here and happy to see you.
Same. Very much the same. So to cover a couple more programmatic things. So we continue to have HIV and STI testing by appointment only at the center right now. I believe in order to get an appointment, you would want to email testing@swcenter.org. And also, I'm not sure that Ian really covered it, but you might notice the end of our email addresses are different now. So if you have any of these email addresses saved, you may want to update them. The old emails will still work for a while, but just remember that it is switching now to @swcenter.org. Also, you can email testing@swcenter.org if you would like a test mailed to you. And if you would like to do it, so they can mail the test to you, you set up an appointment with them, and you actually get to do the test in your house while on the video chat with one of our testing professionals so that they can walk you through the test, walk you through the results. You're not doing it alone. I'm really enthusiastic about this program. It makes me very happy because I know that there are other male testing programs, but the idea of being able to have someone that you can sit with and you don't have to leave your house, yes. And then we are also doing drive-through testing at the center Tuesdays and Thursdays from 10 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. And that's just drive up. There will be signs. They'll point you where to go. And it's really simple and straightforward. In addition to that, as always, free condoms, free delivery, by mail. Get your free condoms. Like, I would be real remiss if I did not push the Nice Package program. So it's nicepackage.org, as Jericho has wonderfully put on the screen for everyone. And we have 17 types of condoms and 10 variety packs on that website. So you have 27 options to order, and you can do an order every month. and they'll just be delivered straight to your door. It's fantastic.
And if you have any questions about these services, you can just check them out at swcenter.org or follow us on Facebook at Ignite Your Pride or Southwest Center on our Facebook page. I think we also have an Instagram, but I'm a bad millennial. So be sure to find that and tell me about it, because I'm supposed to learn about it at some point. At some point. So tonight, I'm particularly excited to introduce our guest, Elijah, also known as Eddie Broadway. Elijah, are you there?
Somewhere. Hey, how's it going?
Good. My dog's just discovered someone outside, though, so excuse the bark.
It happens.
Do you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Sure. I am Elijah, also known as Eddie Broadway. I am Mr. Trans USA 2020. I am also a mental health therapist at AZ Center for Change. And I guess I'm here because I recently came out as positive, and I wanted to join in and having these conversations with the rest of the trans community, especially the trans masculine community, and kind of elevate our voices a little bit. So I'm super honored to be here.
Super thankful to have you. So for those at home who don't know, although it's all over Google at this point, I am also HIV positive, and I am also a trans man. And there's not a lot of resources for trans masculine folks out there. If you look on the CDC's website to this day, like CDC, transgender HIV, it says transgender men's sexuality is not well studied. That is not something you want to hear. And so
it's like a catch-22, right? So there's not enough research out there for us, but we can't really get any help with the research because there's not research available to us. So we can't, it's like we're stuck in this weird in-between spot where it's like, are you going to research this or not? But yeah,
it's just like trans men have sex, y'all. Like
we do?
I think so. I think my husband would be quite remiss if we didn't. So
I mean, who knows? I don't judge your opinion.
I do, quite harshly, but that's just because I'm a perfectionist. Yeah, it's just when. So I was very thankful when you reached out to me, and you did before you had disclosed your status publicly, and you did that on World AIDS Day, by the way. So like, kudos to help bring us into the limelight on one of the most important days. And you told me your story, and it was eerily similar to mine. I was having slight flashbacks, but not in a terrible way. It was more, I was diagnosed January 15th, 2016. And I didn't have really any trans masculine persons I knew who were positive. And here, 4+ years later, we went out to coffee, you disclosed to me, and I was just like, whoa, full circle. Okay. And it was nice to kind of be able to heal and be in the position I wish somebody would be in for me. And then like y'all just took it and ran with it, and like no fear, no stigma, just like, nope, I'm not dealing with this. And I appreciate you so much for that.
Of course. People that know me know that I'm really bad at keeping my cards close to my chest. So it's very much one of those things of, I know if I didn't do something about it or say something about it and make a purpose behind it, I would have just been eating myself up inside. So, and then after talking to you, it was very much one of those things of, I do not want any other person to go through this. I don't want anyone that's AFAB to go through this. And, you know, hearing that you were kind of alone on it, I don't want anyone to experience that again, because that was painful for the first little bit. So, yeah.
Looking over at the comments, I'm seeing a lot of love for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm not even reading it. I don't even want to read it.
It's okay. It involves a lot of multitasking, and I'm perfectly suited for it because it plays into my ADHD skills.
Right.
Can I sit at a desk? No. Can I juggle 3 things at once? Of course. there's just a lot of love and a lot of like thank yous and saying such strength and bravery. And I think one of the things that came up in our conversations is that it kind of sucks that trans persons have to be so strong and so brave. And then it's not just one thing, it's all the things. It's like you're trans, and then you figure out you're into men, and then like, oh, you have HIV, and then all the intersecting things. And like, you don't, quote unquote, look like a person who have HIV, whatever that is. And so when you're going in and trying to get services, everybody's really confused. And then when they find out you're trans and that you're trans men, they're extra confused.
They're like, where's the percentages on this?
Yeah. Like,
yeah. It's kind of unreal because like even my doctor, bless her heart, she's wonderful, but she's like, I don't even know how to work with trans men, and like did the whole you're not pregnant, and I was like, well, I'd be shocked because I had a hysterectomy. So I had to educate her on that. I had a conversation with her today, and I was like, do you want to manage my testosterone? Do you feel comfortable with that? And she's like, just tell me what your dose is and we'll keep going with that.
oh gosh, it's like, I mean, we are around the time of year of immaculate conception, but come on.
And I am Jewish, so
yeah, like it just sometimes the level of ignorance is baffling, and the saving grace sometimes is that when I think about like the experiences we have, the intersections are like, well, AFAB, transmasculine, interested in men, HIV positive. I'm like, I can't imagine how much harder this would be if I was a person of color. If I was in a rural area, like I was in Flagstaff when I was first diagnosed, and that was hard enough. What if I was on the res and I lived there for a year and there were no resources? Mm-hmm. There was no internet. So like, it's so frustrating.
Absolutely. And I count my blessings for sure. Cause even when I came out as trans, it was still pretty accepted comparatively to prior to that. And then, being so public about it, and like, yes, I appreciate the comments, the you're brave and stuff like that, but really honestly, like, it's not me. It's like people, you, Ian, and then the trans masculine people that I knew that had to come out when people still were very transphobic and do it in the dark. And like, the reason I'm able to have my voice right now is because of other people's voices. So I appreciate you all saying I'm brave, but honestly, it's the people prior to me that have kind of pushed this along for me to feel safe enough to do it, right? If this was 5, 6, 7 years ago, I would not feel safe enough to do it.
Yeah, so much has changed in such that short period of time. Like, I remember first trying to get diagnosed in 2016. I actually had to drive down to Phoenix to go get tested at Offshoot 2, where Southwest Center was doing testing. And let me tell you, not a pleasurable drive. 10 out of 10. Do not recommend. And then to get the news and and have like the person go, have you thought about what you would do if you were positive? Which, is the best way to break the news to somebody. It's very solution oriented. It's getting me out of like a trauma headspace. But also like the person asking about my partners and then going back to my doctor, and I couldn't see my doctor, so I had to see somebody else. And that person just assumed I was cisgender. And I told them I was trans. They were just like, oh, so when did you have the surgery? And we should probably check for infection down there. And I'm like, why do you think I had the surgery? And they're like, they couldn't understand a man with a bonus hole having sex with men in the gay way.
It's kind of unreal, the amount of people that still can't wrap their mind around the fact that trans masculine people can be gay.
Yeah.
Trans feminine people can be lesbians. It is possible. And there are gay men that view me as a man. And that doesn't mean they're bisexual, doesn't mean they're pansexual necessarily. That's their journey. They identify as gay, they're still gay. Like,
yeah, I don't think that I can change somebody's sexual identity just because I don't have a certain part. I mean, I could have that part, pick your size, shape, and color. But Yeah, it baffles me. Like, if I walk down the street hands in hands with my husband, like he and I are at risk for being hate crime for being gay, why can you see it then and not any other time? Yeah.
This whole thing totally broaches into like all of the non-binary fun of this. Because then there are those who are like, well, if you're non-binary, anyone who's attracted to you is now gay. And then there are those who are like, if you're non-binary, anyone who's attracted to you is now not gay. We're not sure what this means.
That's why it's just like, I'm just queer. I'm just gay. I'm queer. I'm never like, it's so annoying.
I wish we could get away from like labeling stuff as sexuality as like from a starting point to who you're attracted to, and instead like these are the things I like doing with these kinds of people.
And imagine
this is the anatomy I like sometimes, but then sometimes every so often I'm like, ooh, I want to try that.
Exactly.
I prefer a la carte, thank you. And also too, like, imagine what good would be done if like this is fun and engaging conversation, but like when I go in to get tested, or when I go, by the way, if you need testing services, remember testing at swcenter.org. So when I go in to get tested, or when I go to the doctor and talk about sexual health, like they ask, are you an MSM? And I go, under what grant? Like, that's my first thought. Like, do you consider me an MSM under this grant or this grant? Like, why do you need to know? And I often leave a lot of those questions blank. And the worst doctors are very frustrated. They think I'm lazy. They're like, why didn't you fill out this form? I'm like, I really didn't know how to. And they go, well, do you have sex with men or women? And I'm like, in the last 5 years, like, does it, like, does testing things count? And they don't know. And then they're like, well, are you circumcised? And I'm like, no. Or worse, like I go to give a urine sample and they're telling me how to clean my foreskin. And I'm like, I don't got one of those. So it's just, imagine if we were having conversations like, who are you into? What kind of parts do you have? Where are your parts sitting right now? See if you're on testosterone. You might be menopausal. Like, do you need supplemental suppository estrogen to kind of help with lubrication? I have had that conversation exactly once with a doctor, and he took ages to find, almost a decade.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and so it's like, I would love to.
We talked about this when we met up, because I had my hysterectomy this year, and you were like, do you know you are more at risk for contracting HIV?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for those.
None of that told me. None of it.
I found that out the hard way, like after the fact of being diagnosed with HIV, but like still having sex. And I was talking with, I had a hookup and it hurt. And I was like, okay, it's been a little drier and we use lube and everything, but it ached and it hurt. And so I'm like, oh God, I have to go to the doctor. And for those transmasculine folk out there, those with bonus holes and those kind of parts, however you identify, get them checked out. This is me telling you, you owe it to yourself to be healthy. And if you need some assistance, Southwest Center might be able to help you out or give you a good, competent referral to somebody who will treat you as you deserve to be treated. So I had to go get checked out, got checked out, and there was this huge tear inside me. And I'm like, it wasn't that, like, not vanilla. And so the doctor...
I mean, come on.
Yeah, and the doctor looked inside me, and she just kind of went, well, you're menopausal, so, like, the tissue down there is more fragile. Never explained to me until after I got injured. And if you're more prone to tearing down there, you're more prone to things crossing those mucous membrane barriers, like HIV, and infecting you. You're more prone to really any STI because your body can't self-flush as much as it used to. And there's a really easy solution to it. It's called estrase. And you just take a cream suppository once a week is usually good for most folks. And it goes back to normal. And if you can't take estrogen creams, there are other things that different doctors are willing to try, like DHEA suppositories. And Replens is an over-the-counter treatment that's non-hormonal. All these options, though, like, come in pink and purple packaging with no men in mind.
Right. And like even before my hysterectomy, I tried to get an IUD, and I think there was just so much atrophy that it wouldn't take. So like now combine that with having a hysterectomy afterwards, I don't even know like how bad it was. And again, it, like you said, it's not like I was like, you know, going crazy, like rough sex. It's, you know, I asked my partners, we talked about PrEP, we talked about statuses. I did all of those things. And in addition to that, I was on PrEP for a little bit, but here we are now. You know, and it's like the other thing that I've been just thinking about since September is they don't really, when I was a lesbian, I'm just going to put that out there, I never really talked about this. This wasn't on my radar. This wasn't a get tested every 2 to 3 months or get tested between partners, or these are all the barriers and these are all the things that you should look for. And that wasn't a concept as a queer woman. Now translate that over to my experience now. I felt knowledgeable, but I was lacking in a lot of key areas about my anatomy. That's really what it comes down to, is like, well, I don't really need to focus on this, that, and the other thing, but my anatomy is not the same as a cisgender man. So that does put me inherently at risk for certain things and more susceptibility for things. And now hysterectomy, another susceptibility. Oh, testosterone for 7 years, another layer of susceptibility. So I had no concept that that was so risky. Zero concept.
And nobody tells you, and really, like, a lot of it, as dysphoria inducing as may be, a lot of the studies and information we have is just kind of like really good clinicians looking at how we're built and what's happening to us and hearing our symptoms and going, what's the closest approximation diagnosis there is? And then looking at menopausal women, cisgender women, which we're not the same. Like, I know many wonderful menopausal women who are like kinky and like go to huge sex parties and things like that. But it's not the same as being a man having sex with another man. The culture is entirely different. Right. The experience is entirely different. The consent negotiation is entirely different. And so it's just very disheartening when you're at your doctor and you're thinking back to the CDC, trans men's sexuality is not well studied, and your doctor's like, well, this is the best I got. If they tell you. And funny you said that about the IUD, because that's the third time I've heard issues with trans men. So you're the third. The first was a client a while ago. And then one is one of my favorite TikTokers. He was having sex, and since his cervix has atrophied, the IUD fell out. Like, granted, he described it as his partner was big. So too much pressure, too much hitting of it, and it just fell out. And that's if trans men are connected with contraceptive services. So there are some trans men who can access hysterectomies, and there are some who can't, who don't want to. And many don't know that testosterone is not contraception. Like, testosterone cannot prevent pregnancy.
Oh my God. And then some doctors actually like try to push that it is. And I'm like, no, don't say that. Don't tell people that, please.
Like, I've known trans men to get pregnant on tea.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oops.
And they're, like you said, we're walking into a world where, so my experience is different. I was never like lesbian identified or like woman loving oriented. Always very much into dudes, which is super confusing. It's just like there's no intermediate like step up. It's just like you have to figure out you're a dude before you can figure out you're gay. And so Like I skipped a lot of that, and I think it was really to my benefit, because I didn't have to learn a whole nother culture. But still, when I skipped all of that, all of my concerns cisgender men don't have. They don't have to worry about pregnancy with each other. They don't have to worry about tissue tearing. They don't have to worry about accessing doctors. And they didn't think of me in terms of risks that way, where I was part of a fraternity where a third of them were gay, and PrEP was a thing that a couple of them were on, and nobody advised me to take PrEP. My doctor told me about it simply because she was just a good doctor, and then I wasn't able to get on it.
Or you can have side effects like I did. And then, like I said in my video that's of coming out, Descovy is the same medicine that I'm on. Same exact medicine.
Yeah.
The same exact one. Like it's literally the same. And thinking about it, it's like you refused to, you wanted to push it through so quickly that you didn't even care. You didn't give a shit. You just didn't care about AFAB people. You didn't care about us enough because, like the CDC said, there's not enough research. There's not enough research because you're not doing the research. You know how that works? Like if you did the research, there would be research.
Yeah. It's like, if you're already going to trans clinic to find trans women, why can't you ask about trans male patients too? And we, like, I think it was up until 2013 where trans men weren't even recognized to be anything other than straight. I know that when I started transitioning, I had to go through the urotherapy thing. And I lied and said I was straight because if I didn't, then I would have been diagnosed with potential autogynephilia and had to gone through another 3 months to potentially a year of therapy. So it's just understand the intersections that we can exist outside multiple binaries, please and thank you. It's so frustrating, but I actually want to hear, if you're willing to repeat, like what you said about PrEP and your experience with it, because there are many viewers at home who are unaware.
I got on Truvada. So I tested negative in June, initiated Truvada mid-June, something like that. And I was on it for a substantial amount of time. Initially, my side effects were teeth grinding, like intense teeth grinding, really crazy nightmares, night sweats, stomach aches, like just nasty. Continued to just take it. I was on it for about 3.5 weeks. My face swole up. Like I had rashes, my face got swollen. I got sick, like really, really sick. I called my doctor and she said it sounds like an allergy to it. I took a Benadryl, it finally went down. And I just got so anxious about it and how shitty I felt that I just stopped taking it completely. But my understanding with what my doctor said, just timing wise, I contracted it in August. And I have since now been told by the person I contracted it from that he indeed is positive. So it was like mid/beginning August. But again, if I was on Descovy, I probably wouldn't have had side effects because Biktarvy, the medicine I'm on, next to no side effects, nothing. And cisgender counterparts, assigned male at birth counterparts that are taking Descovy can say to me that they've had no side effects, virtually no side effects. So now thinking about it that way, it's like, so I was giving a medicine that I was tortured on for 3.5 weeks. I wasn't allowed to take Descovy. And now, like literally because I stopped taking it in July, like end of July, and then I contracted in August. So that's how quick it can work. And I know, like when I say that, it's like, no way. I'm like, that's literally what happened in my experience. And it gives me so much anxiety to think about, like, if I would have just had Descovy, and I even said back when I was having side effects with Truvada, I was like, can I please switch to Descovy? And my doctor said, it's not approved for you. It's not approved for you to take. And I went to another doctor and I was like, can I please take Descovy? It's not approved for you. You're a transmasculine person. And I was just like, okay, I'm reluctantly taking these pills that were causing a lot of issues for me. And it's just crazy. It's absolutely crazy. It makes me like so frustrated that we are overlooked. We are overlooked. And it's not acceptable and it's not okay.
It's not. And it's like, this was where the weird echo between our stories is like, that happened with you with the scoby and that happened with me with truvada. I tried to get on truvada 4 times, but it wasn't approved for AFAB persons, or it wasn't approved for trans masculine persons. It was barely approved for AFAB persons, and my insurance company wouldn't cover it. And I had 2 different insurance companies, and I tried 4 times, 2 under each company, wouldn't cover it. And we were trying every which way in the book to get it covered. And since I was in Flagstaff, we didn't know about the Gilead COVID Assistance Program. So for those of you out there who are interested in PrEP, especially persons who are transmasculine and realizing that you're more interested in men or having sex with persons who have penises, please give PrEP a try. Like, many persons are able to take truvada without side effects. Many do have side effects, and that's why we need Descovy as an option. And so, like, when truvada doesn't work, there's an alternative. Just like if we had diabetes, there's an alternative. I have clients who are allergic to the type of testosterone we offer, so we get them an alternative.
Right.
We just need more options. And when you limit these options, you make it so that we have no option except to seroconvert.
It was actually like, honestly, like the fact that I was so sick was probably the best thing that's happened to me. I was sick for 6 days. I was seroconverting hard. And that's the only reason that, like, not the only reason, one of the main reasons I was like, okay, I have to update my test, because I didn't have COVID, I didn't have the flu, I didn't have any of that. And I was like, okay. In the back of my mind, I was like, I'm probably positive. So
yeah. And it's like, I didn't know any of that. I found out, like, I seroconverted hard. It was actually like New Year's Eve. I went home from a party and I walked up my steps and was starting to get dizzy, and I collapsed on my couch and I did not wake up until 2 days later. And I was just like, what on earth is wrong with me? I thought it was a terrible flu that also had night sweats and mouth sores. Like, classic HIV, but I didn't know because nobody had bothered to see me as a gay man and give me the education I needed. So it was just like, what on earth is happening? And then I get a call from the state saying I've been exposed to HIV. I needed to go get tested, which, thank you to whoever that caseworker was who gave me the call. I would have never known, because even when I went to my regular doctor's appointment, I was not offered HIV testing because I was assumed to be low risk. And yeah. And it's like,
oh my God.
I'm like,
because there's not enough research.
Yeah, there's not enough research, but I have data in my body count. I remember most of their names. Like, Grindr was a thing, and testosterone makes you horny, and I have no shame in saying that. Like, my body count was pretty high. I was 19 years old, newly on testosterone, finally in love with my body, finally got top surgery, felt super sexy, and wanted the world to experience that. And so it was like, I use condoms, but it only takes not using condom once or having a break. And it's like, it's just absurd that they'll look at all the other data points except for the one that matters.
Yeah.
Right. And we talked about this offline prior. Your body count being high as an AFAB person, guarantee if it was, I'm going to say it, if it was a cisgender person, no one would bat an eye at it. So, and we've talked about the shame that I felt, the stigma that I felt, and you've gone through as well. Again, cannot help but think that, you know, when I disclose who I've slept with, how many I've slept with, all of that, it's met with a, what? And it's a very slut-shamey, very stigma, very just victim-shamey mentality. And I guarantee if I had a penis, I guarantee it would be like, oh, that's it? Oh, that's not bad. Oh, girl, you get you some. But because we are female-bodied people, talking about sex, it's like, it's like you're supposed to be like celibate. It's like they think because we are female-bodied people, if we're sleeping around, we're slutty. And even if we are, like, we love our bodies. Like, why are we slut shaming in 2020? Yeah. There should be no discussion of like, oh, you didn't use a condom. Oh, you infected me on purpose. Because that's what I was met with. So it's like, I can't help but think if I was a cisgender person that, this person or another person that I hooked up with, they'd be like, oh, well, thank you for letting me know. I'm going to go get tested.
And I think you could probably tell by like the patches of red that are forming. That just makes me angry.
Yeah.
And it makes me angry at so many levels. Like I'm waiting for, like, I wish I had the opportunity one day I've since created a more accepting circle, but one day to say my body count when somebody assumes I'm cisgender. And then they're like, oh, that's not bad. And then they find out I'm trans and see what happens. It's another intersection of like misogyny on top of.
The doctors do it too.
Yeah.
Like I've done it. I have experienced that where I have gone to a doctor. They're like, how many partners have you had? And I disclose it. They're like, okay. And then when we start talking about anatomy and stuff like that, or like, I need to get a prostate exam. I'm like, well, I don't have one of those. And then they just like, they freak out about the trans experience, but then they're like, well, are you having safe sex? But like, and they freak out. Are you pregnant? And I'm like, calm down a second. Your tone completely changed. And it's doctors, it's our community, it's other gay men, it's other queer individuals.
It's the straight community. It's the straight community too. Trust me. I bounce between many communities. The straight community also 100% does this, even to trans men. And it drives me crazy.
Because we were born female. Because our bodies are female. And that inherently is viewed as lesser than. Even if they're not meaning to, there is that subconscious thing of you are lesser than because you don't have a penis.
You're lesser than, and then also at the same time, like you're more responsible for what happens.
Yeah,
like
you are responsible. You maybe should have closed your legs.
Yeah, and it's just like there is no point in blaming half of this equation here.
And it's also my fault for not using condoms.
Yeah, no, that's not. Like, so before I transitioned, like this has kind of been the gift of transitioning, and this has been the gift of like my diagnosis, is that before I transitioned, I didn't want anything to do with womanhood. And then I started transitioning. I understand that being feminine wasn't bad. And then I was diagnosed with HIV. And I started kind of looking at different options and from different lenses, as a drawing life experience forces you to do. And I just kind of started thinking, why do women, and more importantly, female-bodied persons, why are we always responsible for birth control? Why are all the options for us? Why is the pressure on us to handle things? Why is the shame on us? And why are we kind of infighting too when it comes to that? So
right.
Pro-life, pro-choice, I don't want to hear your arguments in the comments. What I do want to know is why you're talking about this as a woman's argument, as if like there are persons out there who aren't women and have uteruses. And when, say, you're pro-choice and our community tries to help you, going, yeah, we want control over our bodies too, we're rejected. Like, figure out your same side and fight together. It's just, don't shame each other. Don't ostracize each other. Find common ground to bring each other together. And it's just, nobody seems to be doing that, especially where trans men are concerned.
Mm-hmm.
It's, yeah. Something to, oh, go ahead, Mars.
I was going to say, so, I mean, I feel like you've kind of touched on this, but what has been the reception to you publicly talking about your HIV status?
Honestly, I mean, it's been kind of overwhelmingly positive.
Good.
So I don't think anyone, I think people probably would rather delete themselves and exit than contact me. Not because like I'm gonna do anything, but because like, what's the point at this point? I mean, I have literally only dealt with shame once, or stigma once, and that was disclosing to a person. But besides that, it's been kind of overwhelmingly positive. Like even I came out to my mom and my sister right before that, and I had my own thought process of how it was going to go, and it went the exact opposite. So it's realizing that a lot of the stigma is in your head too. Yes, it's out there. Absolutely, it's out there. I see the comments. I've seen what people say about people. They still say clean versus dirty. You know what I mean? Like that alone is just cringeworthy. And I've heard people that are my friends be like, "Oh, you're gonna catch something from that someone." And in my head, during that time, I had already tested positive. So like hearing them say that sucks for sure. So that's a conversation that still needs to be had. But in terms of people messaging me or being shitty towards me, I think they would be smart not to.
You're stronger and braver than I was. Like I kind of hid for a while. So shout out to my best friend Skylar. I hope you're watching. When I found out I was diagnosed, I just kind of gave up. Like I was trans, I was gay, and now I have HIV. And this was back in the days of Grindr, where if you were trans, you were basically spammed about how evil you were. Like it got bad during Trump, but it was really bad when I first started transitioning. And he just kind of showed up at my door every day and picked me up and took me to the gym and forced me to eat. I am 165 pounds now. I'm proud of that. I struggle to keep it that weight. And when I was diagnosed, I was 129.
That was the exact weight I was. We talked about that.
Yeah. And it's just, if somebody had been there to be kind for me or to give a positive response, like at the beginning, because it took to me nearly dying for him to help me because I didn't tell him anything that was going on. But all the responses I got from people were negative and stigmatizing and shameful. And then he got me healthy enough to go to Ryan White to get on case management, to get on meds. Which
that shows like that's 4 years ago.
Yeah.
It's like crazy. I don't know. It's just crazy. I think that's why I said something, is because like I don't want anyone to experience what you went through. But like also in addition to that, I knew that there could be that backlash, but I also kind of knew that people have known me across the country, and it's like maybe this will normalize it. I don't know. I was like, you know me. Like if you don't like it, then delete me. Like I don't know.
Yeah, it's just, I think a lot of times people too have those negative reactions and they feel like they have to vocalize those negative reactions. Where'd Mars go? Well, hopefully it'll join. There it is. I was so concerned. I think a lot of those people have negative reactions too because they're doing this. Like if you're out there at home and you're having thoughts crossing your mind of like, that would never happen to me. Like I don't do things that are risky. I'm not really at risk. You are, and you're telling yourself that because you don't want to be like us because you know you're at risk. And so you're creating that distance. You're shaming us to protect yourself. And really the only thing that's going to protect you is getting tested, getting on PrEP. And if you have HIV, getting treatment. If you're undetectable, you cannot pass it to any of your partners. If Elijah and I had sex with men who knew their status and got to undetectable before they had sex with us, we wouldn't be positive.
Ian, do you want me to talk a little bit about why I went on PrEP?
Sure.
Because I'm actually HIV negative. So I'm, yeah, but I went on PrEP because I Hello?
I think you're breaking up, Mars.
No.
Am I back?
Okay. Mars is gonna come back in.
Did that work? Am I back?
You're back.
Good. Okay. Yeah, sorry, all of the cameras went to spinning and I went, I think I froze. Oh no.
It couldn't be 2020 without some technical difficulties.
God, right? But I went on PrEP because I was dating a gay man who had another partner. And, I'm on. So it's kind of funny when we're all talking about body counts, because the last time I was talking about body counts with friends, they're all like, oh, hey, this is how many people I've been sleeping with. And I'm like, so I'm like gray ace. My body count is embarrassingly low. I don't really sleep with a lot of people. But that's because that's a choice. It's not, or it's because that's where I'm at in terms of who I am, not because like anything else. I have no problem with other people having high body counts. Again, embarrassingly low.
I think I'm going to remove that shame for you. There's no shame with any body count.
I still think the funniest part of that conversation when I had this with my friends was because they all had these very large numbers. And my friend was like, it's okay. It was like reverse slut shaming. He's like, it's okay. We'll forgive you for your low body count.
There's no forgiveness to be had.
It doesn't matter.
It's so weird.
Why are people so invested in this?
But I've had this partner who his other partner came back with an HIV positive status. And even though me and my partner weren't actually having sex at the time, I had this realization that my partner's partner and I weren't that different. Like, he didn't have a lot of other sexual partners outside of our relationship. He didn't, but he was into kink. He was, doing kinky shit. And then that same week, I went to a pup mosh and someone didn't remove their shoes and a pup got kicked in the head and there was blood everywhere on the mat. And I remember the next morning going, it doesn't matter the number of people I'm sleeping with. It doesn't matter if I'm having the conversations. Those risks happen everywhere. Like, you cannot control for that. And so what am I losing by trying to go on PrEP? And that's actually what pushed me toward it, is that realization of like, this could have happened even without a sexual situation.
Yeah. For those at home who aren't too familiar with this, I highly recommend that you come to our HIV Beyond the Basic class, but here's a quick refresher. 5 fluids that transmit HIV: blood, common pre-cum, vaginal fluid, breast milk, and rectal fluid. Yes, you use lube, but there's some fluid in there. I know it hurts when you don't use lube, but there is fluid. And so, like, people don't understand that. And a lot of our generation, I think, don't remember the scares around it or what happened, because a lot of our generation died from AIDS. Like, I'm thinking about how far we came in the trans community. Look how far we've come in HIV treatment.
Yeah.
Like, it's projected now that Elijah and I are going to live longer lives because we're more regularly in the doctor's office. We have access to this program, Reign XIII, which is basically socialized medicine, where our copays we have assistance with copays. We have assistance for our appointments. So we don't have to worry about crippling debt to access the doctor to get care. And I think when we talk about HIV and we talk about HIV prevention, it's those intersections, because anybody can really get it if you just happen to cross yourself at the right strings at the wrong time. There's no morality to it. There's luck, and that's all.
Yeah.
Yep. And it's crazy. Like, honestly, doing like the percentages, like, I was like, what is the probability of this? like looking into it, and I was like, God, the probability is insane. Wow, it really just is like luck of the draw, man.
It is.
Yeah.
And one of the most healing things that happened to me is that one of my fraternity brothers, who slut shamed me at first, when I disclosed, I was an error on my part. I disclosed my status. I shouldn't have trusted him. And he came back later and he goes, like, when I heard your body count and everything, I just completely shamed you. And I go, yeah, you did. I don't owe you time. Get to the point. And he goes, I can be an asshole, to tell you the truth. And he goes, well, my body count is way, way higher than yours. And I go, and he goes, and I've never worn or asked a guy to wear a condom. I'm like, please tell me you're on PrEP. At this point, like, I'm just worried. I'm thinking about his last exposure. I'm thinking, should we get him on PEP? Because I found out that existed after I found I was diagnosed with HIV. So there's PrEP, which is pre-exposure prophylaxis, 2 drugs, truvada and scoby. And there's PEP, post-exposure prophylaxis. Have an exposure, you can take these pills up to 72 hours after. They're truvada and Icentris. You take them for a month. The sooner you get on them, the more likely you have to prevent contracting HIV, even if you've been exposed. And if you need help getting on that, we have a PEP line at Southwest Center. So I'm thinking, do we need to get on PEP? Are you okay? And he goes, no, I just got tested. I'm negative. I'm fine. Like, and I haven't had sex with anyone in a while. And I'm like, okay. And he goes, I shamed you because I was worried that I was going to be you. And I wasn't doing anything to mitigate my risk. And I wasn't doing anything to take care of that. I was hurting you, even though the only thing I could have done to protect me was realize that I was vulnerable. And I was like, and he's still negative. I think honestly, he should go to the CDC and go like, here's my body count. Here's how many people are positive I slept with, and I still don't have it. Please take my blood. Because it's just
a body for science.
Yeah, it's astronomical luck, or there's some sort of like advantage he has. So it's just, there's no morality in chance.
No.
None. And when you look at the things, that breed HIV, so like Elijah and I are pretty privileged, and we talked about this, like college educated, white, cis passing, access to resources, at times in our lives had health insurance, access to doctors who understood us at some point or another. And people look at you and go, you shouldn't, why are you here? But even with all that privilege, we couldn't escape HIV. And imagine somebody who doesn't have access to housing, who's doing sex work for survival, who is using drugs because that's the only way they can sleep at night, who is trying to feed multiple people and dealing with stress, who is a person of color and has to be on the DL because of stigma. None of that has to do with the morality of that person and everything to do with the situation they're in.
Yep.
I believe that counts as my soapbox.
It's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. It's like, you don't think it's going to happen to you. You don't. And, you know, I think the other thing about disclosing to friends and all of that is now getting approached by people that are like, what do I need to do? Or, hey, will you come with me to get tested? Or like any of these questions. And I'm like, absolutely. Like, absolutely. I will come with you to get tested. Or like, here's the number for Southwest Center to get on PrEP. Like, here's information on it, you know, like, yes, absolutely do this, because, and especially if it's a trans masculine person coming up to me, I'm very much like, you need to, like, you really need to consider X, Y, and Z. Like, you really, like, you need to get tested more regularly. You need to get on PrEP. You need to really be strict about like asking statuses. But even if you're not, even if you're just out there having fun and living your life, here's these things to mitigate it. You know what I mean? Like, get PEP if you think you had an exposure. Mm-hmm. And it's like, it's amazing how many people are just so afraid to get tested. Yeah, it's scary. Like, when I was laying in like my deathbed, laying there, and COVID said no, flu said no, everything else said no, I was just laying there going, holy fuck. I think I have HIV. And I just laid there like, okay, I'm going to get a test. It took an entire week and a half to get my results back. But the entire time, it's like, once you know, and then you can move on with your life. Like, it's so simple. I got diagnosed September 10th. I was on medication September 11th. That's how quick medical care has gotten. And that's why it's like, if you're afraid to get tested, do it.
Mm-hmm.
If you're positive, that's fine. Get on meds, call it a day. You're good.
Yep.
And if you're negative, get on PrEP, get on meds, call it a day.
It doesn't matter. It's a blue pill versus a red pill. Pick one. Like, at the end of the day, that's what's going to happen out of that appointment. Either you're going to walk away with a red pill, or you're going to walk away with a blue pill. This is like the Matrix. You decide.
Thank you for sharing.
Mars.
Thank you for sharing that on 2 levels. One, for those who don't know at home, the Matrix was created by a trans woman, and there's so many sprinkled trans themes in there. And 2, it is as simple as that. Like, there's really is no difference, except for the fact that, like, if we stop taking our pills, bad things happen, potentially. And so the importance of seeking out these preventive resources and really pushing for them. So if you don't have access to doctors and things, or your doctor's really hesitant, push back against your insurance companies. Like, I think back every day to, if I had fought harder, would I have gotten it? And that's not something you want. There's no shame and stigma in it. I understand all the situations that happen, but that was definitely rage building. And instead of like constantly ruminating on that, I just took all those rage, I funneled them into what Mars calls forks, and I created a trans program. Like, it's just for those who don't know, the trans program at Southwest Center exists because I seroconverted, got connected to an HIV positive community down here who recognized my talents and my understanding of the trans community and fought for a place at Southwest Center for me to do work to help us. And even with all that help, there are still persons who seroconvert every day, which means we have more work to do.
Yeah.
Right. Looks like we're getting to the end of the time. Any last minute thoughts or things y'all wanted to mention?
I saw one question in the comments that is not really a 2-minute question, but if we can try to answer it in 2 minutes. What about the continued social stigma around HIV?
I mean, it's still there, you know, it's absolutely still there. Again, my experience has been really positive, thankfully. The biggest thing, as like just my experience, was worrying about, okay, because this one person shamed me, how are my future partners going to be? And thankfully, in my experience, it's been really positive. I think that's just because our community has been doing a really good job at educating and just constantly like making it normalized. And so I'm thankful that I haven't experienced it, but it's microaggressions. It's the things that are like clean versus dirty, or, you know, saying things like, oh, you're definitely going to catch something from them, or, you know, it's those kind of things where it's not outright being stigma-y or shamey, but it still is. It's not a joke to joke around about being a hoe, and that's makes you positive, because I've had that as well. It was like, I don't want to talk about my status because it will make me a hoe, or whatever else. It's the way we're communicating that still is a little bit my experience.
Yeah. And I think that you hit the nail on the head, because it's rude, one, to say the more overt things, but 2, thanks to an addition to the American Disabilities Act, it's actually illegal in the workplace and illegal in housing. So if you have HIV, you can't be discriminated in those 2 places. Even if you want to be a doctor like me, you can still be a doctor with HIV. The only place where you run into trouble is the military, but hopefully that'll be overturned soon. And so, like, you can't overtly say it. So it's all those little microaggressions, and it's like that blame placing, and it's the going, oh, like, he's dirty, or that's where you'll get HIV, or like, oh, did you hear about what he did?
Or you're gonna get me sick.
Yeah, you're gonna get me sick. The shifting of blame And for those of you who have done it at home and you're sitting there and kind of like looking down, I don't need you to feel bad. I need you to do better. I need you to recognize your discomfort, get comfortable with your vulnerability, start reading some Brene Brown. I don't know, work through it. And or even check out like the team. Check out Team Friendly too. Team Friendly, run by Dave Watt, has a ton of resources on how to have friendly conversations to decrease stigma. Everybody who's watching, like, the social stigma still rapidly exists and it's hidden. The first thing you need to do is pay attention to it, even if you don't have HIV. And the second thing you need to do is call it out in a friendly way that pulls people in so that you can change their minds and help them get access to prevention. Because the people who are being the most stigmatizing are probably at risk and they need help. Do we forgive their bad actions? No. Do we condone them? Absolutely not. Do we do better? Yes. And so do better, because that's the only way we're going to end this epidemic, and it's still an epidemic. So we are at time, but Elijah, I would love to have you again for another thing. At one point or another, this has been so wonderful. We had one question tonight, but we still had a whole conversation. And I saw a ton of persons in the comments listening and engaging and connecting. So thank you. This is a first. Thank you so much.
I could talk all day about this. I'm like super passionate and fired up. So
maybe we can in the future. In April, it's National Trans HIV Awareness Day.
That was when I originally was going to come out. And then I was like, nope, can't wait.
I like that you didn't wait, because then we got to do this now.
Yes.
Yeah. So maybe more in the future. But until then, I'm thankful to you. I'm thankful for you being out about your status. And I'm thankful that you came to me for assistance and I was able to be there, because that was healing for me.
And I'm thankful that you were willing to be here on this program and even have more additional publicity about this.
I will honestly do whatever I can to continue this conversation. Like you two, I've watched the show and I've watched what you guys do. So it's really a big deal, because years ago, this wasn't even a thing. Having these conversations for transmasculine, trans-identified, AFAB people just wasn't even talked about. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We're going to say goodbye to Elijah. Bye, Elijah. Great. Mars, thank you so much for joining tonight.
Absolutely.
And thank you for being out about your status too, about being HIV negative and on PrEP and sharing your experience. Like, all statuses are good. All body counts are good. Yeah. You can never have too low or too high. There's always just right.
I like that. I like that concept.
All right. So to give, bye, Mars. To y'all at home, thank you for coming to tonight and being more vulnerable with us. I am sad to say that this is the last Ask a Navigator. However, there's something coming in the future, so stay tuned. Until then, to all of those of you home, HIV negative, HIV positive, thank you for tuning in. And if you don't know your status, please find out. And if you just found out that you are HIV positive, I love you. You're going to make it. Everything's going to be okay. I promise. And if you need help with that, find us at swcenter.org or call us at 602-307-5330. All are welcome at Southwest Center, and we're more than happy to take care of you. All right.